Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday afternoon, June the 7th, 2020. I hope everyone is doing as well as possible. This is their weekly methane update. I have NOAA data, CAMS data to look at. We're going to look at Climate Reanalyzer and carbon dioxide, and going to look at NASA Worldview, and just have a wrap up. So I hope everyone has had a safe week. It's been pretty unpredictable in a lot of different ways, but we're going to start out with the NOAA data. This is from yesterday, June the 6th, for the 477/469 millibar reading. From the Met-1 satellite in the morning, the mean or average was 1,890 parts per billion. The high reading was 2590. Got a big area of missing data there. In the afternoon, the mean was 1887. The high reading was 2289. Now this bright pink area is the highest area, between 2000 to whatever is the highest reading here. That's parts per billion, so you can see it's all over the place. We also have some pink in the southern hemisphere as well. And on the Met-2 satellite in the morning, the mean was 1870. The high reading was 2349. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1867 and the high reading was 2351. Here's the spreadsheet where I've been tracking all of this, and the chart. Here's the weekly coming down. Here it is for yesterday, January the 6th. I added up all of those numbers I just called off and divided them by 4. And we come up with an average of 1,878.5 parts per billion, which shows an increase from the week before of 4.25 parts per billion. So we had a huge increase this week. We can see the line going up here on the chart. And see, it started going back up in February, and then it went up and down and up and down, and then it went down mainly in April and May. And now here it is, the first week in June, and it's just zoomed back up 4.25 parts per billion. So it could be that we're already in the warming period now, and so that's a huge increase. And so the change from February the 29th to June the 6th is 2 parts per billion overall. The change that's in the plus, the change from March the 1st of 2019, which was a year and 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, has been 21.25 parts per billion. I started charting this in March of 2019. Down here is where I started charting it on a daily basis, and I show this in for my Subscribe Star members as I do the videos during the week. And here's how it stacked up. We had an increase every day this week until Saturday. It went down 0.75 parts per billion, but we had a daily increase, and at one point we were up 5 parts per billion from last Saturday. That was on Friday the 5th, and then on the 6th it went down 0.75, so we ended up for the week going up 4.25 parts per billion. And since it started going up at the 1st of February, it's gone up 15 0.25 parts per billion. So that's where we're at with that. So let's run the methane movie on cams now. They put the Sunday data up. I have the Arctic view and surface level ready for you. This is the color ledger. This darkest is between 2160 and 10,000 parts per billion. And we have some of those areas. So let's run this movie. The data is for today. And then the forecast period is Monday through Thursday of this coming week. So we're seeing this high release coming back all around Severnae Zemlya. So on Sunday it was pretty quiet, but then in the forecast period, look, it's really populating back. We have a high release on this north coast of Alaska still, and it's really filling up in the middle part of Alaska as the week goes on. We're also seeing the Scandinavian countries coming back to life, and this release, this arm moving out in the Arctic Ocean. And we can see it's coming back to life across Russia and Siberia. We're also seeing it coming back to life further north in China up to the Russian border and beyond. That's coming back to life. We're also seeing the background color getting a little bit lighter now. Instead of it being kind of a middle or darker color green, it's coming, the background color now is the lighter green and moving into the yellows and the orange color, which is a higher release as well. So we can see a definite change in the colors since methane is increasing now. It's on the rise, and it's typically it starts going back up in June or July, but I think we're on the way back up now. And as the temperatures start to warm with summer coming on, we're going to see the rises coming back. Now this is the North Pole view. Here's India. It's filling back up all across this northern part. Here's the Persian Gulf. Here is Spain. Here's Europe all across here. This is the Mediterranean down here. Here's Africa. Here's China. Now, we're not seeing it fill up to the sea coast, but we are seeing in the interiors fill up with that darker color, which is the most. Here's Korea, north and south. Here's Japan over here. And over here in North America, we've got high release off this eastern seaboard, and this high release from the middle of the country going east, just depending on where you're located and what day it is. And high releases here in California, especially Southern California. And look at this on the Gulf Coast of Texas. It's coming back to life. And of course we've got that storm coming up, Cristobal, and causing a lot of rain. Wherever that's raining, then there will be a lot of methane coming up once that's done. Now let's check out the global view. We're still seeing releases down here in the Antarctic, here off this western peninsula, also down here and here on the coastlines, around the coastlines. Look at this wave like moving out from South America and in the Atlantic. This is Australia down here. This is New Zealand. Now remember, they have changed these colors and the algorithms some, and used to, in the old color ledger, this green would have been in the yellow and the orange. So, and then the yellows would have been red, and the oranges would have been red and dark brown. Now let's look at 500 HPA. Here it is. And if we refresh, we can get the correct color ledger that corresponds to this level. And so we can see that these gaps in the red are filling up. We still have a few gaps, but it's filling up this northern part. And then total column. And if we refresh, we'll get the color ledger for total column. So it's a little bit different on this one. This highest, darkest region is between 1920 to 2320 parts per billion. So the highest we see over China and over India. Now let's take a peek at carbon dioxide. Here it is for today. We can see that darkest region is right here from northern India over to the eastern part, and there's a band that goes, we can see the darkest, and then it's almost a distinct line as you're going into the southern hemisphere where it becomes lighter. And here on CO2 Earth, if you go to, this is the records page, CO2 records. We set another record this week. On June the 1st, we had the daily average for NOAA at Mauna Loa was 418.32 parts per million. That was an all-time record in recorded human history and beyond. And the weekly record of CO2 was set May 24th to the 30th of this year, being 417.43 parts per million at Mauna Loa at NOAA. The monthly record was set in April of this year, 416.21 parts per million, and the yearly record was set last year, 2019, at 411.44 parts per million. So we are already past the yearly record. And then the scripts reading is a little bit different, but these are all records as well, set in April and May and then last year. So even though the emissions of carbon dioxide have gone down, as a result of the lockdowns and the decrease in the industrial activity, the CO2 levels are still going up because it takes about 10 years for the emissions to take full effect in the atmosphere. So what we're feeling now or experiencing now as these higher levels are as a result of the emissions from about 10 years ago. And also because the methane levels going up, it's causing the CO2 to go up too, because as methane breaks down, it turns into CO2. Now let's just take a cruise through Climate Reanalyzer. Here's the maximum temperatures for today around the globe. We can see in the Arctic that most of it is above freezing, and look at these greens all around here, and that green is about 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. And down here, look at how hot it is coming down through the US, and over here we've got a lot colder. In fact, where I live, we've got a winter storm coming in with freeze warning, and I had to cover my garden, and we've got a freeze warning tonight with possible snow in Reno. But look at the rest of the planet. Look at Africa. It's in the white zone, which is between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius. On the 2-meter temperature anomaly map, we can see just slight brown coming across the Arctic, but we can see that Russia is red right here, near the Kara Sea, and then red across here across Siberia. And here's this blue coming down through the western United States and down from Canada across the northeast. Then it's brown in the middle of the country. Here's the flat view. We can see Russia is in the red, a lot of it, and then China has some brown, but a lot of the world has a lot of blue, which means cooler than normal, and we're seeing purple down in the Antarctic, which is cooler than normal or colder than normal. So worldwide, we're only up 0.2 C higher than normal worldwide. The northern hemisphere is up 0.6 C. The Arctic is up 1.6 C. The tropics are up 0.5 C. The southern hemisphere is down 0.1 C. The Antarctic is down 3.3 C. Now these are all deviations from higher or lower than normal. Here's the precipitation. Now we can see it's raining in a lot of the Arctic. And so where it's raining, if there's sea ice, the sea ice will be melting. If it's on land, then the permafrost and the snow will be melting quickly. Or if it's snowing, then the sea ice will be melting quickly. Here's the big storm coming in through the Gulf, it's filling them up. Here's the flat view. The green is rain. Look, Norway's covered up with rain. Norway, Sweden. Here's the sea level pressure. So we got a low right up here off the coast of Norway, and then here in northern Canada, and this cold Arctic air is pushing down through Canada and the US. Another low here south of Greenland. Here's another low here coming down through Russia. Oh, and here's the low where Cristobal is, the storm system. Let's see. Let's get the jet stream. Here it is, swooping down from the Arctic, looping way back up, swooping way back down. I mean, it's just really extreme. And when we're talking about abrupt climate disruption, we're talking about extremes in all kinds of weather and wind and atmosphere and the atmospheric rivers and all of that. And so that's what we're experiencing in extremes in temperatures as well. Here's the flat view, and here's it swoops lower across the Atlantic. Then there's a higher one up here. And then in the southern hemisphere, we've got they're dancing. A couple of them are dancing, splitting apart, 2 or 3 there, back and forth. Here's the sea ice and snow cover for today. We can see it's melted a lot here along the coastlines, along Russia, and up here to the north of Novaya Zemlya, around Franz Josef Land, and around Svalbard. It's melted in around Greenland. The Baffin Bay has gotten a lot less in the Hudson Bay. Here's the flat view, and it's coming back. The extent is coming back in around the Antarctic, and it's getting in their winter. It's in their winter season now. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly. They updated it to Wednesday, June the 3rd, so it's 4 days old, but we're still seeing a lot of higher temperatures, much warmer than normal. Look here in the Bering Strait and off the coast of Alaska especially, it's in the red zone, and in the Kara Sea and the Barents Sea here, and filling in around the coastlines, the Mediterranean and the Atlantic and so on. Here's the flat view. You can see a lot of browns, a lot of reds. So overall, worldwide, sea surface temperature is up 0.4 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.6 C. The North Atlantic is up 0.5 C. The equatorial Pacific is up 0.3 C. The southern hemisphere is up 0.2 C. And the North Pacific is up 0.6 C. Now let's look at NASA Worldview. This is for today, June the 7th. I have this is the Arctic view. I have the sea ice concentration level turned on. Let me turn on the blue marble layer. Now we can see it without the clouds. Here's where we're at right now. And we can see as it goes into the reds, it's melting. Greenland has melted a lot this week. We saw a spike in the melting in Greenland. We're also seeing it starting to really melt around this edge here on this eastern side. This is the North Pole at 90 degrees north latitude. Here's Svalbard. As we get into the darker red, it's melting more, and then you get into the blues and the greens and the purples. We can show the degree of the melt. We can see the degree of the melt. That's ice-free here in that area. Here's the Baffin Bay. Here's the Hudson Bay. Here's the Hudson Strait. So all this black area, that's ice-free. Black or dark blue. Here's Novaya Zemlya. We can see it's really, this ice-free zone has really grown. Here's where it's so hot in the Kara and Barents Sea. This is ice-free all along there. Here's a patch that's totally ice-free here and here. Here's this East Siberia Arctic shelf is all along underneath this area that's melting quickly. So we're going to start seeing methane coming up, I anticipate, in this whole area. So we can see it's whatever's left here, it's getting really thin. Now let's turn off the blue marble view layer. So we've got the clouds. We'll turn off the sea ice layer. And now this is the actual satellite view. So we're looking through clouds. Now that you know what you're looking through, where the ice edge is, you can discern this is clouds here and here's the ice. You can see the chunks of the ice, and the integrity of it is just chunks, and it's melting very quickly now. This is the Baffin Bay. Here's this whole area that's totally ice-free now. Coming up, here's the north end of Greenland. We've got a good view of this northern edge today. It's ice-free right here on this northeast part. Now the thickest ice is still right along here, and the ice is different this year as far as the way it's forming. We can see the ice edge all along here, and last year this the Beaumont Sea emptied out really quickly. This was ice-free this time last year. If we zoom back, see, here it is this time last year. We can see the difference where it was ice-free, but it was further out than it is now. So it's a different shape, but we are at the lowest extent ever at this time of year. So we can see where it's breaking up here. And this is a cloud. This is ice-free. Here's the ice edge here. Then it comes back to the coast there along Alaska. Then this is ice-free along here. Here's the ice edge. This is Barrow, Alaska here. Here's the Bering Strait. See, that's all ice-free. This is all ice-free through here. This is the Chukchi Sea. You see this Alaska coastline here. And then this is Russia along here. And we can see the ice here. This is where it's melting so quickly. We're looking through a few clouds, but you can see the ice and the ocean through there, through the clouds. So this right here, that's that's this this is the East Siberia Arctic shelf right along through here, where Natalia Shikova talked about the huge stores of methane that are just waiting to be released from the clathrates that are melting. Now, this group of islands is Severnae Zemlya. This is where we're seeing the large releases of methane pulsing up since January all around this island. Here's Novaya Zemlya, and we're seeing it come up here in the North Kara Sea as well. And we're seeing it come up now. Let's see, here's Norway. It's coming up off Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia here, and here in Russia, and now further over here. So there's that. So that's what I had to share. With my climate and sea ice update. Now I'm continuing to read from the prophetic books of the Bible. I do believe we're in the end times, and that the prophets of old were seeing things that were coming, not only for their generation, but for the generations to come, and also for our generation. And I finished reading Jeremiah this last week, and now I'm in Lamentations. There are only 5 chapters in Lamentations. So, and Lamentations was written by Jeremiah, and these were grief chapters after Jerusalem was destroyed and the Israelites turned from God, wouldn't do what God had said for him to do. So these are his lamentations, and also the lamentations of the people finally repenting because they saw what happened when God's wrath was released on them. And I think this can apply to what we're seeing now, what we're going through, and what we will be going through as we head into the darkest hours in these end times. So, Lamentations chapter 4. How has the gold become dim? How has the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. The tongue of the sucking child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. They that did feed delicately are desolate in the streets. They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills. For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom, that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. Their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It is become like a stick. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for want of the fruits of the field. The hands of the pitiful women have soddened their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. The Lord hath accomplished his fury. He hath poured out his fierce anger, and hath kindled a fire in Zion, and it hath devoured the foundations thereof. The kings of the earth and all the inhabitants of the world would not have believed that the adversary and the enemy should have entered into the gates of Jerusalem. For the sins of her prophets and the iniquities of her priests that have shed the blood of the just in the midst of her, they have wandered as blind men in the streets. They have polluted themselves with blood, so that men could not touch their garments. They cried unto them, Depart ye, it is unclean. Depart, depart, touch not. When they fled away and wandered, they said among the heathen, They shall no more sojourn there. The anger of the Lord hath divided them. He will no more regard them. They respected not the persons of the priests. They favored not the elders. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching we have watched for a nation that could not save us. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. The breath of our nostrils, the anointed of the Lord, was taken in their pits, of whom we said, Under his shadow we shall live among the heathen. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz, or Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. Lamentations chapter 4. So we need to keep our eyes on heaven and be waiting for Jesus, praising him. He is my King and my Savior. And I stand for Jesus, and I'm a citizen of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. I'm not a citizen of this world. Come what may, whatever happens, I make my stand for Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and for Almighty God. I suggest everybody make their stand, make their decision while they still have a chance, because at least if you make your stand now, you know where your soul is, you know where you stand. It doesn't matter what happens to your body. If you're killed or if you're martyred, it doesn't matter. What matters is what happens to your soul. So I'm ready to go home whenever it's time. So I love all of you, and I'm praying for everyone, especially for the lost souls. But we need to all make a stand now while we still have a chance. Make a choice, one side or the other. Make a choice, because this is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual battle that's playing out down here. You need to decide which side you're going to be on. So until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.